Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition, the holiday edition, as you could say, as we head into Christmas time of Big Guy Fantasy Sports Fantasy Football Consistency Show. As always, I'm your host, Bob Lung, here at Big Guy Fantasy Sports, and of course, on Twitter at Bob_Lung. And we have a special guest. Well, he's special, but he's really not a guest because he's kind of part of our team. Mr. Texan himself, he's got it all. He's got the hat, he's got the sweater. He probably has underwear and socks as well. Mr. Colby Conway, what's going on, Mr. Texan?
Living the dream. Big matchup this weekend. Play Cleveland. I didn't even know that. I totally forgot that you were a Browns fan and that they were playing this weekend, and I dusted off everything here. Right now,
I kind of forgot they played them too.
I got the hat. I got the sweater. I do have the socks. I don't have those on. I actually don't own any Texans underwear, but I do got the Texans wedding ring on.
There you go. So now, did your wife put that on your hand at the wedding, or was that something you bought after the fact?
No, no, we bought it. Yeah, it was after the fact, but it was a non-negotiable on my end.
Well, I understand. I'm not shocked.
Don't worry. I got my fancy one here.
Okay.
And then I got my functional one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you don't want to scratch and make,
Yeah, exactly.
So up there, I get it.
But I got the nice one for dates and trips and fun stuff like that. So I got it in there.
Don't tell your wife you're going on dates without her. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes I just leave this one on. You never know. But
yeah, right. Yeah, really, some hot Texan fan, right?
Yeah, hot commodity for sure.
That's hot commodity. Those Texan fans. That's it. But anyway, yeah. So we're heading into week 16. For those of you who are alive, heading into the semifinals, probably of your fantasy leagues. My one league, my touchdown only, my long time, heading into year 40 next year. Touchdown only has 2 playoff weeks because we only have 4 playoff spots. So we have 3 divisions. So it's the 3 division winners, 1 wild card, and then we play, semifinals, finals, back-to-back weeks. So I made it into the finals or the semifinals of that one. Actually have the second best record, but the guy had the best record, of course, ahead of me. But that's okay. It's all well and good. So he was 11-4. I was 10-5. So we get to play each other again. So we played each other 2 weeks ago. I beat him. We were tied, and then this past week it didn't matter. And so anyway, but that's the only league I'm in that we haven't already had a playoff week heading into the Kings Classic. I know you're doing well in the Kings Classic. You got a couple playoff spots this week as you're heading into. So good luck to you. And I'm just literally burning incense and sacrificing chickens and whatever else I can do because I'm going against Matt Donnelly, and he's got Brock Purdy and CMC and Mike Evans, and he's on fire. And I've lost Justin Herbert, Jamar Chase, Zach Moss, and I'm just scraping the barrel for players that just get somebody in there that I hope could have a big game, and hope and pray that Purdy and CMC, I don't want them to get injured, obviously not, but just be normal. Don't go crazy. Purdy, I don't need you throwing 4 touchdowns. I don't need CMC with 45 points or I'm dead. And I need Justin Jefferson, and I need AJ Brown and Mostert, and so I'm going to definitely say there's going to be a lot of sacrificial offerings to the fantasy gods for sure. So, all right, let's get started here with the consistency of the quarterback position. At number 1 is Joe Flacco, is 100%. Okay, he's only played 3 games, but isn't 100%. Which I don't know if anybody expected that, but here we are. But for the real quarterbacks who've been playing most of the season, Jalen Hurts, 86%. Sam Howell still hanging in there at 79%, even though he missed a clutch game last week. Kirk Cousins, of course, 75%, but he's been missing most of the year. At 71%, Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. And then at 64%, we have Russell Wilson, CJ Stroud. 62%, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, and Dak Prescott, 60%. After that, quarterbacks below 60%, which is kind of the threshold. As if you've watched the show, you follow our stuff, 60% is kind of the threshold. Like, you need to be at least there to even be worthy of being a starter in most 12-team leagues. And yet, Colby, Lawrence Jackson, Jared Goff, Tua, Joe Burrow, we know, but a lot of these big names, especially the Lamar Jackson, who has been in every week that he has a good week, they put him in the MVP scenario potential, and yet he's 57%, even though he's fifth in total points. Of course, he's tied with Dak, who's also at 57%, who's fourth in total points. Jared Goff's eighth in total points, and he's down at 50%. Are the quarterbacks becoming the new tight ends in this league? I mean, tight ends have now sunk below catchers, which we've identified early in the season, according to Ron and I. But are the quarterbacks just? I mean, do we just wait on them? I mean, everybody kind of moved up this year, first, second, third rounds. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Burrow, all those guys got taken early, and outside of maybe Hurts, nobody's really been worth it from a consistency standpoint. What are your thoughts? And then what player do you want to highlight this week?
There's two ways to look at it, really. So, and I think it's going to come down to what camp you fall in. If seeing how the quarterback landscape has panned out this year, depending again where you fall, it might be I'm getting Allen or Hurts next year, and that's it. I'm not leaving my draft without him. So be it. Then there are others that'll say, well, look at those top guys. They haven't been, all that. So maybe I do wait. Maybe I hang out in that QB 9, 10, 11 and hope I hit it right and take the high upside QB 2. Like my plan coming into this year, and for a while it did not work. So it sounds a lot better now in week 15, but just I'm not victory lapping it. I understand weeks 1 through 7 weren't great with it, but I was very big on Dak and then taking like a Jordan Love and Matthew Stafford or Matthew Stafford QB 2 and hope one of them pans out. That's the way to go back, because I didn't want to invest a top 4 or 5 pick into a quarterback. So it's going to come down to what camp you fall in. I like taking a safer guy at QB1 and hope for upside at QB2, but that's just me for 2023. We'll see how 2024 pans out, but the QB I'm going to highlight, Joe Flacco. The only thing here that I'm worried about, I saw it on Twitter, he shaved the beard. He was 100% consistent with the beard. Now the beard's gone.
Oh no.
Is this a Samson type situation where it's all in the hair and now the hair's gone and he's gone? I don't know, but it's a very good matchup. As we saw last week, I have been saying it for weeks. You don't run the ball in Houston anymore. D'Amico's got them firing on defense. So expect another 40-plus pass attempts from Joe Flacco. That's just what's going to happen, and volume is king. So if you don't have a sure thing at quarterback this week, there's a very real chance that you're going to be riding Joe Flacco at your quarterback position, trying to make your fantasy football title.
Yeah, that's for sure. I totally agree with that. So I'm going to talk about Baker Mayfield just because, he's been kind of hot lately. 2 straight clutch games last week, big week, 22 of 28, 4 passing touchdowns, 33.85, obviously his biggest game of the year. Played against Green Bay on the road. So in Lambeau, average defense. They're not top 10. They're not bottom 10. But definitely won that shootout against Jordan Love. This week going against Jacksonville, who's like 29th and giving up fantasy points to quarterbacks. So definitely got to love the matchup. Now the question is Baker going to need to throw the ball enough to beat Jacksonville if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play? That could be the issue. He may not have to throw as much as he did against Green Bay and Jordan Love last week. So we'll see. But again, if you're going into the playoffs and, you're in a deep league like something like we are with some of the Kings Classics, you're struggling. Somebody who lost Justin Herbert just 2 weeks ago. I was on a first week bye, so didn't work that week. But this week, I didn't have anybody. Of course, Baker was long gone, so I picked up the ever-present and impressive, occasionally at times, Mr. Nick Mullins, and I'm hoping that him and Jared Goff can have a nice duo or a nice battle there in Minnesota indoors. So I'm hoping for that one. But yeah, again, if you need somebody to get through this week, I don't think you would be. I think you'd be in pretty good shape if you could go with Baker this week against Jacksonville. So let's move on to the running back position, and still smoking at the top. And now almost 100 points ahead of second place, Mr. CMC himself, Christian McCaffrey, 100%, 14 of 14. Alvin Kamara, 7th in total points, misses 3 games, 11 for 11 in consistency. So he's still at 100%. So could be a rare feat. We don't see a lot of 100%s, almost hardly at all. But we have a chance for 2 of them, even though Kamara did miss 3 games. Still an impressive 11 of 11 streak here. Also then at 91%, David Montgomery. Raheem Mostert second in total points, 86% consistent. Jonathan Taylor, who is 6 of 7, 80%. Kyron Williams, 80%. Rashad White, Joe Mixon, and Bijan Robinson at 79%. After Bijan was not given the ball again by Mr. Arthur Smith, which we all know and love. 71%, Travis Etienne, James Cook, Breece Hall, Jerome Ford. And then a lot at 60%. We won't keep going, but Colby, the running back position, obviously lots of injuries. We lost Dobbins. We've lost Taylor on and off. We've lost, a lot of players have gone down with injuries and have come back. Kenneth Walker, it hasn't been a great year for Derrick Henry, Barkley, Eckler. They're all kind of fading off. Some of the youngsters have done well, probably quite a few. Rookies will be moving into that elite spot of being over 60% in a rookie season. But your thoughts on the overall, like to say top 15 here of running backs, any ones that you kind of were on and you feel have played out well for you. And then obviously you want to talk about your guy for this week, but talk about some of the running backs you looked at the beginning of the season. I think you, like many of us, went with the let's go, wide receivers early. Let's get the tier 2 running backs later and hope they pan out. Obviously, some of us have. I've been the Raheem Mostert guy this year. That's worked out in my Kings Classic. Some have, some haven't. So give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was big on Travis Etienne. I wasn't buying the Tank Bigsby hype, and that's panned out well. This is the Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator for Buffalo has unleashed the version of James Cook that is like 3 or 4 times more than what I was hoping in the beginning of the year drafting him. Like it's literally the best version of him that really you could get from. Admittedly, I wasn't as bullish on Rashad White, and I wish I would have been. I was all in on Cam Akers for the Rams. That didn't work out, but Kyron has come in. So maybe by proxy, I'm kind of correct in that the position is fruitful for the Rams. That's just what it is. Like that position is good for them. So yeah, the top 15, James Cook with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator is just otherworldly. And as long as you got through the beginning of the season when Cook was, I don't want to say struggling, but he was putting up clutch games, but they weren't the big games you probably needed. Mm-hmm. You're loving life right now. But I'm going to call out 2 guys here. The first one's going to be Chuba Hubbard. Miles Sanders stinks. Carolina stinks. And I was actually looking at this. I don't think I wrote about it for the Who's Hot, Who's Not, but I'm about to put Hubbard in there. But I know I wrote about it for the Red Zone Report over at Fantasy Alarm. Carolina is a run-heavy team. Teams that stink typically can't be run heavy because they fall behind and have to throw it. Carolina doesn't care. It feels like they're at the point of we're going to try to get out of the season by impacting Bryce Young's confidence as minimally as possible from here on out. Doesn't matter. They're down 21 in the third quarter. Handoff. Oh, it's 3rd and 3. Yeah, let's not throw it. Let's hand it off. Hubbard's getting 20 plus carries every single week.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it's volume is there for him. He's going to catch a couple passes. I mean, look, he's got 4 clutch games in a row. He's up to 50% on the year. Would I be surprised to see him end the year with 7 straight clutch games? At this point, no, because he's going to get 20 plus carries and he's fine enough to do it. Get a couple passes here and there because they're not going to let Bryce Young throw it down the field. So Chuba Hubbard's in a really good spot. And then a quick shout out to Devin Singletary's got 5 clutch games in his last 6. And you want to talk about a team just fully giving it to one guy. I mean, Dameon Pierce, I think if I remember correctly, played 4 snaps last week. Singletary gets 26 carries and 5 targets. So if you want a tough matchup this week against Cleveland, but again, if someone's going to get 20 plus carries and multiple targets, I mean, he doesn't even have to be effective. 20 carries for 50 yards, 3 catches for 30 yards. You're at double digit points from right there. And that's a pretty bad day overall. So
Yeah.
give a quick nod to
So,
Singletary.
as a Texans fan, what happened to Dameon Pierce from just 2 years ago, or what? When he was good, was he just not that good, and they have a good offense? I mean,
I think it's
what's the difference
scheme.
between Dameon Pierce now and before? Because it was talk that Dameon Pierce was the future, and then they brought Singletary in. We're all like, why? But obviously,
I
that
think
was
it's
the
a
right
scheme.
move.
I think it's the zone blocking scheme. The
Okay.
zone blocking scheme has it has, what's the word I'm looking for? It has exposed some vision issues with Pierce that maybe weren't seen before. And the other thing too, think about it. When you look at the state of the Houston team, last year there weren't many bright spots on it.
Right. True.
He made some big plays. He was the bright spot. This year, when there's a bunch of other bright spots, it got to the point where last year I was like, please just give the ball to Dameon Pierce. It's so much more fun when we run the ball. Now, this year, whenever Pierce is on the field, it's like, honestly, I love the guy, but please don't give him the ball. It's a negative play. It's not going anywhere. The run blocking has been very inconsistent, which certainly hasn't helped. But I mean, there's talk from some sources on Twitter and some beat writers and people who are pretty in tune with the organization. I mean, I don't know if Pierce is on the team next year, if I'm being honest. Like, if they bring back Singletary, they have to draft a running back. That's going to happen. What happens with Dameon Pierce? I mean, last week, Dare Agumbawale is getting reps ahead of Dameon Pierce. Mike Boone has gotten reps. I think they got rid of him, if I'm not mistaken now. But I mean, Pierce is an afterthought now. Singletary all the way. I think it's the scheme. I don't think he's not his own runner.
Fair. No, great analysis there. I definitely love that. Since there wasn't a lot of guys that have had clutch games of recent that really were people that we could talk about, like a Chuba Hubbard that, hey, maybe he's available in your 10, 12 team leagues. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. I just want to highlight CMC and the year he's having. I mean, this is taking us back. We're having flashbacks of a few years ago before he got hurt, just putting up massive numbers. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was over 400 points a few years ago? I want to say yes. But if not, he was damn close. He's at 355. We have 3 weeks left, so 400 is not out of the question.
So he'll have it at the end of this
based
week.
on the way he's been going, it could be this week.
Yeah, exactly.
But, just looking at his week to week, he's only had 3 games. Now, look, a clutch game for a running back is in the PPR format is about 10 points, plus or minus. He has not only been over 10, of course, every week. He's 14 of 14. He's only been under 20 points in 3 weeks out of the 14. 14, 14 or 14.8, 14.2, 16.3. Those are the only games that he's even been under 20 points in a game. He is just, like I said, every week when they talk about all these quarterbacks winning the MVP, I'm like, why are we not talking about McCaffrey and what he means to that team? He's at almost 1,300 yards rushing, 57 catches, 509 yards receiving, 15 touchdowns, and we're still only in week 16. So we got 16, 17, and 18. Now, he may not play in 18 because they may have locked up the first place bye the whole way through. I'm not sure on the playoff scenarios. It could be as early as next week, maybe if they win this week. I'm not sure. But, yeah, I mean, if he plays all 17 games, he could hit not only 41 points, but I don't see why he's not up for MVP. Not even fantasy MVP. That's obvious. But just MVP of this season as a player and the effect that he's had on this team. Yes, I love Brock Purdy. He's been great too. But come on. Without CMC, Brock Purdy doesn't get that kind of time. He doesn't have that kind of, someone coming out of the backfield making all these catches and spreading, it's just, anyway. But just wanted to, again, we all know it's been happening. Just want to remind everybody how dominant this season has been for him.
I mean, and to throw this in there too, Raheem Mostert has the second most fantasy points, and he's nearly 100 points behind McCaffrey. Yeah, right. And then you have Mostert, who next up is ETN, and quick maths, Mostert is about 24 points of him. So
Right.
there is only one running back within, give or take a couple, I'm doing very quick math here, about 115 fantasy points of McCaffrey. I mean, utterly
Well, there's
insane.
only 7 running backs, not including McCaffrey. There are only 7 running backs, even over 200 points. At 250, there's only one other, and that's Raheem Mostert. And so, yeah, it's definitely a big difference of what McCaffrey has done. And we've seen this. Kelsey a couple years ago was 100 points ahead. We've seen, McCaffrey be this far ahead. We've seen Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson had years when they won MVPs where they're just light years ahead points wise. And yeah, McCaffrey is just dominating. If you go and look at your fantasy playoffs, look for the team that has McCaffrey. I'm pretty sure he's probably in the playoffs unless the rest of his team just sucked. But I'm thinking that most of the time they're in. All right, so let's move on to the wide receiver position. As Ron and I have talked every week, Colby, this is the position. Everybody started going towards this, drafting more wide receivers early, first 5 rounds, 3 wide receivers, usually in the first 3 to 4 rounds. I know a lot of leagues I drafted, the wide receivers early, definitely got 2 in the first 2 rounds, especially if I was kind of in the middle. A.J. Brown, as you know, was one of my guys. It certainly has paid off and been the player I thought he would be. Some of these others have certainly got up there, but just Tyreek Hill didn't play last week, so he's 13 of 13, 100% for the year. At 93%, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Pittman, 92%, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and A.J. Brown. Nope, A.J. Brown's at 86%, along with Cortland Sutton, 85%, Brandon Ayuk, DK Metcalf, 79%, Mike Evans, Jordan Addison, 77%, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Deebo Samuels, and at 75%, we have Stephon Diggs. So, nope, he's 71% with a lot of others. Well, some surprises near the top. I don't think any of us thought that 31-year-old Keenan Allen could do it again, but here we are now. He's hurt this week. He's going to sit out. This is the Keenan Allen we were expecting to happen probably a lot sooner in the season, but he toughed it out, made it this far. It hurts when you're losing a star like that for your playoffs, but the fact that you probably draft him as your wide receiver 3, maybe your 2, probably your 2, but maybe in a shallow league, could have been wide receiver 3. You never know. Keenan wasn't going as high as he normally does. There's some other surprises. I mean, we all loved Michael Pittman. We thought with Gardner Minshew, maybe he'll be 75% consistent. Maybe he'll be top 15. But here we are. He's, interestingly enough, only 11th in total points, but the consistency has been off the charts. So might be able to give him as a wide receiver 2 next year, depending on your league. But Colby, your thoughts on the wide receiver position, especially that maybe top 24, and then talk about the player that you wanted to highlight.
Yeah, I've given a lot of positive stuff. Let's do some negative because
okay,
we gotta even it out a little bit. Stephon Diggs started the year 9 for 9. He's 1 out of his last 5.
Yeah,
that coincides right around the time Joe Brady's taken over. James Cook has ascended. They're running it a little more. Cook's a little bit more involved. Now, I love the matchup for Diggs this week, and you have to start Diggs. You just have to. Like, you're not sitting him, but hey, 1 for 5 consistency last couple of weeks, not overly great there. Other than that, at the top, Michael Pittman's just been an absolute target hog. And he's practiced in full. So I think if fantasy managers who lost him last week, if you were able to advance, pretty good chance you should get him here this week. And he'll once again get right back to his 10+ targets, 7+ receptions, 70+ yards, hope for the touchdown. Cortland Sutton, boy, is he lucky he's gotten those touchdowns. That's all I can say about him. And he might be one, if he gets drafted, like depending where his ADP comes in next year, he could be an easy fade because that touchdown rate is not going to be sustainable, especially with Russell Wilson, who just, I don't even know what to say about him anymore. I'm at a loss of words. I don't really know where to go with it. But this week, if you're in the fantasy football playoffs, maybe you're in a deeper format, Dontavian Wicks is going to be a receiver you want to know. 7 targets last week was a season high. He's got 5+ in 3 of his last 4. And Jaden Reed hasn't practiced due to his toe issue. Christian Watson, who is perennially not available, is not practicing. He's not going to be out there. So in deeper formats, take a look at Dontavian Wicks. I know he's not overly consistent, but he's carved out a role alongside the likes of Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. I'm skeptical Jaden Reed plays this week, so Wicks should step up in a big way in a very good matchup.
Yeah, and I'm hoping you are 100% right because I definitely need him in my Kings Classic. Like you said, a lot of disappointments, I think, from Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy. We obviously the injuries to Jefferson and Joe Burrow hurting Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp getting hurt. Certainly got hurt with a lot of that stuff. But it's still the T. Higgins. Who else? Jahan Dotson. There's just so many players. Drake London. Godwin is only I guess he's 64%. It's not terrible. Michael Thomas started out hot. We thought for sure he was going to come back. Amari Cooper. The Browns have had 14 different quarterbacks. That hasn't helped. But it's just been one big mess. Speaking of another mess, the Los Angeles Chargers lost their quarterback, fired their coach, got their ass beat by the Raiders after the Raiders didn't score any points 4 days before that. So they're a big hot mess, but at least they got somebody in Quentin Johnson who, again, if you're maybe in a deeper league, he might be available. He did earn a clutch game last week with Easton Stick at the helm. Easton Stick's got something to prove. He's going to go out and start slinging the ball, I'm sure. And with Keenan Allen out, that pretty much leaves Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson out there to catch most of the passes. So definitely get him in if you can. If you're, again, in a deeper league and you need some depth there, that may not be a bad pick as well. As this week, the Chargers are playing
Bills
against the Buffalo, but in Los Angeles, so at least nice and sunny weather. So that should help out. All right, let's head to the tight end position, always our favorite. At the top, TJ Hawkinson. Looks like he might beat out Mr. Kelsey for the title of top fantasy tight end this year. Is first in total points, now first in consistency after Mr. Kelsey did not do well last week. But Kelsey's still at 85%, 71%. Sam Laporta and Evan Ingram. Mark Andrews, of course, has been out most of the season, well, for at least for a while, but he's sitting at 74%. 64%, David Njoku, Cole Kmet, and Jake Ferguson. And then that's it, over 60%. As usual, tight ends, hardly any consistency whatsoever. You're just grasping for straws. You try to find hot streaks. Every week, we're always kind of identifying a tight end that maybe you've had a clutch game or two, over the last couple of weeks, just to hey, if you don't have one of those big boys and you're just kind of streaming every week, here's the path. Colby, we absolutely hate tight ends. We don't like to draft them. I think they're starting to be like kickers. I think we should just eliminate them. I'm just kidding. Or no, okay, maybe I'm not. There's times I'm like, let's be honest, but Kelsey goes away, what we got? 2, 3, maybe? Laporte is coming up, TJ. That might be the only two that you can go, okay, I feel comfortable. Mark Andrews, he hasn't been healthy in the season in how long? He always gets hurt. The rest of them are 60% or less. So talk about the tight end position and then talk about who you'd like to highlight this week at that position.
We're almost kind of getting a changing of the guard at tight end because when you hear a lot of people talk about 2024, everyone's all hype on Sam Laporta. Mm-hmm. Maybe even a David Njoku, Dalton Kincaid, Trey McBride. It's these rookie and sophomore tight ends that everyone's excited about for the future. But don't sleep on some of the vets. TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, they continue to produce. And Dalton Schultz has been okay for the most part. But yeah, tight ends. If you have one of the big boys, you got a separator at the position and you have to be thrilled about it. But other than that, Trey McBride's looking like I'll say a league winner. I don't really love the term, but I'll say it. He's been looking really good at
he's put up 5 straight, so yeah, it's kind of hard to argue.
He's been great. The most important point in fantasy. And if we look at it, obviously I would shout out David Njoku because he's on an insane run. And boy, does he have a great matchup this week here as well. But the one I'll shout out, it sucks because they're the Sunday night game. It sucks for multiple reasons. They shouldn't be the Sunday night game. It's going to be a boring game to watch. It's going to be horrible.
Those this time of year.
I know you're supposed to be able to, but if Hunter Henry plays, he's got easily one of the softest defenses for tight ends going up against him. Denver, he scored touchdowns each of the past couple weeks. If he's healthy and playing, he's in a really good spot, and you could do worse than Hunter Henry at tight end this week if you're in a pinch.
Gotcha. Before I get to my guy, question for you for 2024. How high round-wise is Sam Laporta? How high is too high for Sam Laporta to be drafted? Because I could see him going in round 4, maybe 3. I mean, I could see people putting him in the Kelsey Hawkinson scenario where you're like, hey, look, there he was.
Yeah, he doesn't have the track record yet to get the recent Kelsey treatment in terms of like round 1 Kelsey and everybody else is round.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, no. Right.
So he's not there. I don't think anybody is there for 2024. Like, I mean, someone still might take Kelsey early on if they believe it, but I'm not after kind of seeing him this year. So I don't think 2024 is going to feature a first round tight end. I just don't.
No, but I'm saying is third round too high for Laporta? Would you take him that high?
At this point,
regular and not tight end premium.
Yeah, no, I think I'd consider it. I mean, I think third, fourth, fifth, I think anywhere in that range, I think that's going to be where you want to get your tight end. And whether it's going to be the like I said, there's not going to be one that goes in the first. So it's going to push him back to the second. There's going to be so many running backs that fall just like they always do. So you're going to like them in that tier. Yeah, I think third, fourth is going to be fine for someone like Laporta. And like, there's going to be some other things involved too. Like, does Ben Johnson stay? Or does the offensive coordinator leave? Who comes in? Are they tight end friendly? Laporta's a great talent. Don't get me wrong, but there have to be some other kind of factors that go into it. But I mean, at this point, I don't know how there's going to be an open discussion next year for tight end 1. And depending on who you talk to and who has an affinity for who, and if there's any off-season marriages that come into play, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, do we see anything like that? I don't know. Laporta is going to be up there high. He's going to be in that conversation for one of the first handful of tight ends off the board. Yeah,
no. And I mean, I'm looking. So he has year to date, he's played all 14 games, 201 points. I'm looking at where that would fall in the wide receiver position, and that would put him 16th in total points. So he would fall around Devontae Smith, Brandon Ayuk. I'm trying to find 16. Where number 16 is at. Where is 16? They must be 16. Yeah, so Adam Thielen, 200.6 fantasy points versus his 201. So he would be ahead of him. So yeah, he would be in 16th place in the wide receiver position. So, I mean,
that's good value.
Yeah, so you're right. So second round, third round.
Yeah.
I don't
think it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy either. It's just like you said, it's a question of how much does Ben Johnson affect that scenario, which we assume he's going to go and become a head coach somewhere. He's not going to stay there because he's going to get that opportunity to go somewhere else. So they bring in, what if Jameson Williams really never picked it up, being the star second guy beside Amon-Ra. Porta has, and Laporta can block. He's in there every play. He does a great job of that. So yeah, it's you could see him being him and Hawkinson and Kelsey all being round 3 picks or late 2 picks.
And Andrews, he'll be in there too.
Andrews will be in there. I just don't know if he'll be drafted that high. He just can't stay healthy. I mean, I haven't drafted Andrews in years just because I'm like, he never makes 16 games. He barely, he's got 10 and he won't play the rest of the year. So,
And depending when you draft too, like if you get like on Underdog, if you do some of those, I think they call it like too early drafts that they do, Trey McBride's going to be a value because everybody's going to be, well, who's the quarterback? What's this? What's the situation going to be like? But I mean, he's got such a role in that offense. Like, as there's more clarity around McBride, his price is either going to get absurdly high and you're not going to get him. So I feel like, especially like all of my shares of Trey McBride are going to be in those 2 early drafts, like for best ball drafts. But he's another guy too that's going to flirt with that top, 5 pick at the position.
The guy I was just going to talk about real quick, Tanner Hudson. Again, if you're desperate, you need somebody to fill in this week, you just have a void depending on who your tight end is. Again, if you're trying to stream, he's had 2 straight clutch games. He is the tight end that is getting all of the attention and has pretty much most of the season. Irv Smith has been an absolute waste. My apologies to anybody who I'm pretty sure I put him in one of my underrated players, and it just stinks. I thought for sure he would just needed a change of scenery. And I don't care with Burrow there or not Burrow there. He wasn't getting the ball when Burrow was there either, or at least rarely. It seems like Jake Browning just kind of has been focusing towards Tanner Hudson, especially near the end zone. And without Jamar Chase this week, it could be another nice week for him as well. So again, if you're struggling, you need somebody to fill in, definitely check that out. So Colby, thanks for filling in this week. You and I will be, of course, back this weekend. Ron will be back this weekend. He's taking a nice little trip, visit his mom up in Indiana. So Ron, have safe travels back. So to everybody where they can find you here on Big Guy Fantasy Sports and on Twitter and all that kind of good stuff.
Yep, at Colby R. Conway on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Then here at BigGuyFantasySports.com, we got the Who's Hot, Who's Not article that comes out, Consistently Cashing podcast, and the Profit Like It's Hot podcast and article. So that's where you can find me.
Cool. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Bob_Lung. Fantasy Football Consistency Show here tonight. We'll be doing the prop bets. I think we went 3-3. No.
Yeah, I killed us. So
yeah, we went 2-4. We won't talk about your picks. Mine went 2-3. I'm just going to say.
I'll talk about them. They went over. So
yeah, you went over. Yeah, so we went to.
It's all about accountability. I take ownership of it.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was not a good week. Things just didn't work out. So hopefully we'll get back on the winning stretch again. But we still almost at 60% for the year. Still doing great. So nothing to be disappointed, nothing to be ashamed of. So. And did you guys cash this week? I forgot.
No, we got
just missing again.
There's a whole listen to the. I'll go on a rant on consistently cashing about it. So we'll talk there.
Okay, we'll talk there. All right. So for Colby Conway, I'm Bob Lung. If you don't see us this weekend on the shows, that's cool. I know you're busy. It's Christmas weekend. Everybody have a great, blessed holiday, and we'll see you again next week on the Consistency Show as we'll be highlighting week 16, heading into championship week. So for Colby Conway, I am Bob Lung. Everybody take care. God bless. Happy holidays.